The command center of the Arcturus station buzzed with focused energy as displays showed tactical data from across the galaxy. Captain Alex Reeves stood before the holographic projection, examining the strategic map while conversations in multiple languages filled the air. The Galactic Alliance comprised 27 species, each with its own unique biology and culture, united under a common goal: protecting themselves from external threats. For the past 3 centuries, the Alliance had maintained relative peace throughout the galaxy. Different civilizations had learned to coexist, trade, and even collaborate on scientific endeavors. Humanity had joined this cosmic community just 50 years ago, still considered newcomers by species with millennia of space travel experience. While human technology remained somewhat behind, their enthusiasm and adaptability had earned them a cautious welcome. Commander Zyrith of the Menin species, whose skin shifted colors with mood and emotion, approached Alex. The Menin's carefully controlled neutral gray indicated professional detachment as he delivered his message. "Captain Reeves, the Council requests your immediate presence," Zyrith said, his voice carrying the characteristic melodic quality of a species. "The situation with the Vrex Dominion has escalated." Alex straightened his uniform and followed the commander through the corridors of the station. The architecture reflected the Alliance's philosophy: modular designs that could accommodate various species' needs for gravity, atmosphere, and spatial perception. They passed Thraxian engineers, whose crystalline bodies refracted light in mesmerizing patterns, and Keldan diplomats, whose multiple arms gestured in complex communication patterns. The council chamber towered with its vaulted ceiling designed for flying species while accommodating ground-dwelling delegates. Representatives from all 27 species sat in specially adapted seating. The atmosphere felt heavy with concern, and Alex noticed several delegates' defensive postures. The Craxan ambassadors' plates had darkened to their deepest purple, while the ethereal representatives' normally translucent form had become opaque with worry. "The Vrex Dominion has claimed 11 star systems in 3 months," announced Prime Coordinator Thesha, an ancient Elvani whose telepathic abilities made her an ideal mediator. "Our predictive algorithms, tactical analyses, and strategic responses have all failed. The Vrex adapt faster than we can counter." The holographic display illuminated, showing the progression of Vrex conquests. Their hive-mind military moved with terrifying efficiency, each unit operating as part of a greater whole. Where Alliance forces employed calculated tactics based on millennia of warfare theory, the Vrex responded with perfect logic and coordination. "We've exhausted our conventional options," continued Thesha. "Our most brilliant strategists cannot outmaneuver their collective intelligence. We need something different." Alex felt the weight of dozens of alien gazes settling on him. He understood before the words were spoken. "You want humans to lead the military response." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Some delegates shifted uncomfortably. The Noxari ambassador's tentacles writhed with visible skepticism, while the Zinthari representative's energy field crackled with disapproval. "Your species has only recently achieved faster-than-light travel," noted Ambassador Krell, a massive armored Drumon whose species had repelled invasions for thousands of years. "Your military doctrine is rudimentary at best." Thesha raised a hand for silence. "What humanity lacks in technological advancement, they compensate for with unconventional thinking. Your warfare patterns don't follow predictable logic. The Vrex have proven they can counter any rational strategy we employ." Alex considered the implications. Leading the Alliance military meant taking responsibility for the lives of countless beings across multiple species. The pressure felt immense, but he also recognized the opportunity. "I'll need to assemble a team," Alex stated. "People I trust, who understand both human tactics and can work within Alliance protocols." "Granted," Thesha agreed. "You'll have full access to Alliance resources, though Earth's government insists on limiting the number of human vessels committed to this campaign." Alex's jaw tightened. The political constraints would complicate his plans, but he'd work within those parameters. When do we begin? Immediately. Report to the Celestial Accord. Commander Xyrith will brief you on our current defensive positions. As Alex departed the council chamber, he felt the gravity of expectations and doubt pressing down on him. Too much depended on humanity's unpredictable nature, the very quality that made them outsiders in the logical framework of the Alliance. Aboard his quarters, Alex contacted his most trusted officers. Lieutenant Diana Wells, his tactical advisor, appeared first on the communication screen. Her sharp mind and analytical approach balanced his more instinctive decision-making. Diana, we're taking command of Alliance military operations. I need you here within 24 hours. Her expression showed surprise, but not shock. The Vrex situation? They've essentially admitted defeat using conventional methods. We're the last resort. Next, he reached out to Lieutenant Obinosi, or Obi as everyone called him. The technical genius had consistently proved his worth in understanding alien technologies. Pack your quantum processors, Obi. We're going to need creative solutions to counter hive mind tactics. Obi's enthusiasm was palpable even through the comm link. Finally, something challenging. I've been analyzing Vrex communication patterns. Their perfect coordination might have exploitable vulnerabilities. With his core team mobilizing, Alex prepared for the next phase. The Alliance had placed its faith, however reluctantly, in humanity's chaotic approach to warfare. He intended to prove that unpredictability could be the ultimate weapon against perfect logic. The Celestial Accord represented the pinnacle of Alliance shipbuilding technology. Its sleek lines and advanced weaponry systems made human vessels look primitive by comparison. As Alex's shuttle approached the docking bay, he noticed the organized bustle of preparations. Different species worked in coordinated teams, each contributing their unique strengths to the war effort. Captain Reeves, Xyrith greeted him at the airlock. The commander's skin had shifted to a more positive blue-green hue. Your arrival has sparked considerable discussion among the crew. Many are curious about human military philosophy. Alex smiled. I suspect they'll be surprised. Where's our current command center? Xyrith led him through the massive ship to a state-of-the-art tactical room. Holographic projections displayed real-time data from dozens of star systems, while Alliance officers coordinated defensive measures across the galaxy. Our last engagement with the Vrex occurred here. Xyrith indicated a system on the edge of the frontier sector. They overwhelmed our defenses through superior numbers and perfect tactical coordination. We retreated before complete annihilation. Diana and Obi arrived within hours, along with a handful of other human personnel. The contrast between species became immediately apparent. While Alliance officers approached problems with methodical precision, the humans engaged in rapid-fire discussions that jumped between topics with seemingly random connections. Their greatest strength is their predictability, Alexander mused during their first strategy session. But that's also their weakness. If they can only respond logically, we need to create situations where logic doesn't provide clear answers. Obi pulled up Vrex communication intercepts. Their hive mind processes information through quantum entanglement networks. Each unit receives and transmits data instantaneously. Traditional jamming doesn't work because we can't interrupt the quantum links. What about feedback loops? Diana suggested. If we could inject contradictory data streams. Alex grinned. Chaos drones. Small, unpredictable units that don't follow standard attack patterns. Program them with random algorithms that change every few seconds. Xyrith observed this exchange with evident confusion. How does randomness provide tactical advantage? Sound military doctrine depends on disciplined execution of proven strategies. That's exactly what the Vrex expect, Alex explained. They've analyzed every Alliance military database. They know your tactics better than you do, but they can't predict what they can't analyze. The first operation to test this theory came 2 days later. A Vrex scouting formation approached the Helios system, probing Alliance defenses. Standard protocol would have been to meet them with measured force, demonstrating defensive strength without committing to full engagement. Instead, Alex ordered the deployment of Chaos drones, small, automated vessels programmed with erratic flight patterns and weapon targeting sequences. They moved in ways that defied military logic, sometimes attacking stronger targets while ignoring weaker ones, other times fleeing from minor threats while pursuing heavily armed vessels. The results exceeded expectations. Vrex forces attempted to predict and counter the drone movements, but their perfect tactical analysis faltered against pure randomness. While they eventually destroyed the drones, the encounter delayed their advance and forced them to expend significant ammunition on phantom threats. Fascinating, Obi observed, reviewing the data. Their processing time increased by 300%, trying to calculate optimal responses to non-optimal behavior. Word of the successful test reached Alliance High Command, generating mixed reactions. Conservative military leaders questioned the sustainability of chaos-based tactics, while others saw potential in humanity's unconventional approach. Administrator Cole, representing Earth's interests, contacted Alex directly. Your methods are drawing attention. The Council has requested detailed reports on all human military operations. They want to ensure we're not creating more problems than we're solving. With respect, Administrator, we're facing an enemy that's conquered 11 star systems in 3 months. Traditional approaches have failed. We need room to innovate. Cole's expression remained neutral. Innovation must be balanced with responsibility. We're still the newest members of the Alliance. Reckless behavior could damage our standing irreparably. The political pressure added another layer of complexity to Alex's mission. While fighting the Vrex, he also had to navigate Alliance politics and Earth-cautious approach to galactic conflict. The next major engagement proved both the value and limitations of human tactics. The Vrex had adapted to expect unexpected behavior, creating countermeasures for chaos-based attacks. They deployed swarm ships, small vessels that moved in tight defensive formations, protecting each other while maintaining the flexibility to respond to unpredictable threats. They're learning, Diana noted with a mix of admiration and concern. The hive mind is incorporating randomness into its calculations. Alex studied the swarm patterns. If they want to play with chaos, let's give them something they can't comprehend. He proposed Operation Kaleidoscope, a battle plan that changed dynamically based on enemy responses. Unlike standard military doctrine with predetermined contingencies, this strategy adjusted in real time according to algorithms that even the human operators couldn't fully predict. The engagement took place in the Nexus system, where Alliance forces had established a defensive perimeter. As Vrex swarm ships approached, Alex implemented his plan. Alliance vessels, primarily crewed by humans, began executing seemingly contradictory maneuvers. Some ships attacked with maximum aggression, others maintained defensive positions, and a third group appeared to flee before suddenly reversing course. The unpredictability created cascading effects throughout the Vrex formation. Their perfect coordination, designed for logical warfare, struggled to maintain efficiency against chaotic opponents. Individual units hesitated, breaking formation patterns as they recalculated optimal responses to rapidly changing situations. Exploiting their predictability by being unpredictable, Zyrith commented, his skin showing patterns of yellow that indicated deep thought. Your tactics defy everything I learned in the Alliance Academy. The battle ended with the Vrex forces retreating, marking the first time the Alliance had successfully pushed back their advance. Casualties remained relatively low compared to previous engagements, though the chaos tactics had caused some coordination issues among non-human crews unaccustomed to such methods. Recognition of the victory brought new challenges. The Alliance Council officially offered Alex command of all defensive operations, a position that required promoting him to Supreme Commander of Allied Forces. The title carried immense prestige, but also unprecedented responsibility. You must understand the magnitude of this appointment, Thesha explained during the formal ceremony. You will command forces from all member species. Their lives, their worlds, depend on your decisions. Alex accepted the promotion, knowing the real battle lay ahead. The Vrex Dominion had only been testing Alliance defenses. Intelligence reports suggested they were mobilizing a full invasion fleet, one that could overwhelm current defensive measures regardless of tactical innovations. The first signs of this escalation came through garbled transmissions from the outer systems. Alliance observation posts detected massive energy signatures consistent with large-scale construction projects. The Vrex were building something enormous. We need more information, Alex decided. A reconnaissance mission, but not the standard approach. Conventional scouting has failed, Obi reminded him. The Vrex detect and destroy any vessel that enters their construction zones. Diana studied star maps, her fingers dancing across the holographic controls. What if we don't go in as scouts? What if we go in as something they don't expect? The plan emerged gradually, combining human deception with Alliance technology. Instead of sending military reconnaissance, they would disguise a small team as traders from a neutral species. The Vrex, focused on military threats, might overlook civilian vessels. The Quellian Empire maintains neutrality, Zyrith suggested. Their distinctive ship designs might provide adequate cover. Alex approved the strategy, though with modifications. We'll need someone who can think on their feet. Obi, I want you with me on this mission. Diana, you'll maintain command here and prepare contingency plans based on whatever we discover. The modified vessel, bearing Quellian identification codes and sensor signatures, approached the outer edge of Vrex space cautiously. Its crew comprised Alex, Obi, and two experienced intelligence specialists who could operate Quellian systems without arousing suspicion. The Vrex construction site exceeded all projections. A megastructure took shape in the void, a quantum gateway capable of creating instantaneous transport tunnels between distant regions of space. If completed, it would allow the Vrex to bypass Alliance defensive positions entirely, striking at the heart of member worlds without warning. Brilliant and terrifying, Obi whispered as they gathered sensor data. They're integrating captured Alliance technology with their own quantum protocols. This gateway could transport an entire invasion fleet in seconds. The discovery changed everything. Alex immediately recognized the strategic implications. The Alliance couldn't afford to wait for the gateway's completion. They needed to strike now, despite the risks. The journey back provided time for Alex to formulate his plan. Traditional military doctrine would call for a massive frontal assault, attempting to overwhelm the construction site with superior firepower. The Vrex would expect this, having prepared defenses accordingly. Instead, Alex proposed something unprecedented, a feigned retreat followed by a decentralized assault. Alliance forces would simulate panic and disorder, appearing to abandon defensive positions. Meanwhile, small strike teams would infiltrate the construction site using multiple vectors and methodologies. The council chamber erupted with debate when Alex presented his proposal. Military traditionalists argued against such an unconventional approach, particularly given the stakes involved. You're asking us to risk everything on an untested battle plan, protested Ambassador Krell. If this fails, the Vrex Gateway becomes operational. Our worlds will be defenseless. Alex remained calm despite the pressure. If we follow conventional tactics, we guarantee failure. The Vrex have countered every standard assault we've attempted. This mission requires deception on a massive scale. The human proposes deliberate disorder, noted the Zinthri ambassador, its energy field flickering with uncertainty. How can we coordinate such chaos effectively? We don't coordinate in the traditional sense, Alex explained. Each team receives general objectives, but maintains tactical independence. The Vrex can't predict our movements if we don't know our exact paths. Fesha considered the arguments from multiple perspectives. The quantum gateway represents an existential threat. We must succeed, regardless of methodology. She paused, then continued. Supreme Commander Reeves, you have authorization to proceed. May whatever deities each species acknowledges be with us. Operation Trojan involved the largest mobilization of Alliance forces since the Coalition's formation. Hundreds of ships from different species prepared for their roles, though only a select group knew the complete strategy. To sell the deception, most crews genuinely believed they were participating in a desperate defensive action. Alex coordinated from the Celestial Accord, which served as the visible command ship. Its position and communications would convince Vrex intelligence that the Alliance was organizing a conventional response. Phase 1 begins in 6 hours, Diana confirmed, reviewing final preparations. All non-combat vessels have evacuated potentially threatened systems. Civilian populations are moving to secure locations. The operation commenced with Alliance forces spreading across defensive positions, their movements deliberately visible and predictable. As expected, Vrex scouts observed these preparations, transmitting data back to their command structure. "They're taking the bait," Obi reported, monitoring Vrex communications. "Their forces are preparing to intercept our expected assault vectors." Alex had positioned himself with the primary assault team, a calculation that horrified Alliance command protocols but reinforced the authenticity of his commitment to the desperate gambit. "Humanity's first supreme commander," Xyrith remarked as they prepared for insertion. His skin displayed a complex pattern mixing respect and concern. "Leading from the front defies Alliance military traditions." "Human traditions have their own value," Alex responded. "Sometimes leaders must share the risks they ask others to take." The initial phase proceeded as planned. Alliance forces began their feigned advance, moving in predictable formations that seemed to gather for a massive frontal assault. Vrex defenses mobilized accordingly, concentrating their forces to repel the anticipated attack. At the crucial moment, Alliance ships broke formation in apparent panic. Some vessels fired randomly before retreating. Others appeared to lose communication and drifted aimlessly. The performance was sufficiently convincing to draw main Vrex forces away from the construction site. While the diversion played out, 10 strike teams approached through different vectors. Each employed unique infiltration methods. Some used stealth technology, others hid within asteroid fields, and several posed as debris from the chaos of the initial engagement. Alex's team navigated through a dense nebula that interfered with standard sensors. The cosmic dust provided cover, but also challenged their own navigation systems. "Remind me why chaos isn't always ideal." Diana's voice crackled through secured communications as her ship approached from another vector. "This controlled chaos might save worlds," Alex replied. "Now, Obi, what do we know about the Gateway's defenses?" Obi's technical expertise proved invaluable. His analysis identified the megastructure's critical points, locations where Alliance technology interfaced with Vrex systems, creating potential vulnerabilities. "The quantum field generators require perfect calibration," he explained. "If we can introduce harmonic interference at multiple points simultaneously, the strike teams reach their targets within minutes of each other." Vrex defenders, while still formidable, had been reduced by the successful diversion. The real challenge lay in coordinating attacks across 10 independent teams without direct communication. Each team adapted their approach based on immediate circumstances. Alex's group encountered unexpected resistance when Vrex forces attempted to counterattack using captured Alliance ships. The irony of fighting human-designed vessels wasn't lost on anyone. "They're learning our chaos tactics too quickly," Diana warned over emergency channels. "We need to accelerate our timeline." Alex made a split-second decision. "All teams, execute primary objectives. Don't wait for coordination signals." The resulting assault defied conventional military analysis. 10 different attack patterns struck the quantum gateway simultaneously, each causing reactions that the Vrex hive mind struggled to process. Their perfect coordination, designed to counter logical threats, encountered cascading failures when responding to multiple, disconnected forms of chaos. The battle reached critical mass when Obi's team successfully planted harmonic disruptors at key junction points. The devices didn't destroy the gateway immediately, but created resonance patterns that threatened structural integrity. "The quantum fields are destabilizing," Obi reported with excitement. "If we can maintain interference for 30 more seconds, Those 30 seconds seemed to stretch into eternity. Alliance ships fought desperately to protect the insertion teams as Vrex forces attempted to reinforce their positions. In space, lighting moved differently than on planets. Massive energy discharges created beautiful but deadly displays across the void. Alex's ship sustained heavy damage while providing covering fire for Diana's team. Emergency alarms blared as systems failed one after another. Shield generators offline, reported the Thraxian pilot, its crystalline body resonating with stress vibrations. Hull breaches on multiple decks. Keep firing, Alex ordered. Obi needs those 30 seconds. The Vrex response grew more desperate as their megastructure began self-destructing. Their hive mind, designed for perfect coordination, couldn't simultaneously process defensive requirements while maintaining failing systems. At the 28-second mark, the quantum gateway exploded in a spectacular display of energy that could be seen across multiple systems. The detonation created a temporary disruption in local space-time, sending shockwaves through both Alliance and Vrex fleets. Gateway destroyed. Obi confirmed redundantly as the visual evidence blazed across their screens. Quantum tunneling capabilities eliminated. The victory carried a heavy price. 12 Alliance vessels had been destroyed, including ships crewed by personnel Alex had personally commanded. The human contingent lost 3 ships and sustained significant casualties across multiple teams. As the surviving forces regrouped, estimates confirmed the operation's strategic success. The Vrex had lost their invasion shortcut and suffered their first major tactical defeat. However, their core fleet remained intact, and intelligence suggested they were already adapting their strategies. The aftermath of Operation Trojan transformed Alliance military doctrine permanently. Whether traditionalists welcomed it or not, chaos had proven effective against perfect logic. Alex received numerous commendations, though the celebrations felt hollow given the losses sustained. You understand now, Thesha observed during a private meeting, the weight of command. Victory measured in lives expended. I'm beginning to, Alex replied, exhaustion evident in his voice. Though understanding doesn't make it easier. Administrator Cole attended the memorial service for fallen human personnel. His usual political reserve cracked slightly as he addressed grieving families. They fought not just for Earth, but for all member worlds. Their sacrifice prevented catastrophe. The strategic victory against the Quantum Gateway bought time, but didn't end the war. Vrex forces regrouped, implementing new tactics that incorporated lessons learned from chaos-based warfare. They began using decoy units with random behaviors, attempting to confuse Alliance predictive systems. They're adapting faster than projected, Diana noted during a strategy review weeks later. Our chaos advantage is diminishing. Alex found himself caught between immediate military needs and longer-term strategy. The Alliance Council pressured him for continued victories, while Earth government worried about overextending human forces in a galactic conflict. We've proven ourselves, he thought privately. Now we must maintain that standard while avoiding exhaustion. The solution emerged through integration rather than isolation. Alex proposed incorporating chaos principles into Alliance-wide military training, teaching all species to think flexibly rather than treating unpredictability as purely human trait. Every tactical advantage you possess complements chaos strategies. He addressed a gathering of Alliance military officers. Thraxian energy manipulation, Menin rapid camouflage, Keldon multiple perspective analysis. All these can enhance unpredictability when properly applied. The proposal faced resistance from military purists but gained support from officers who had witnessed the effectiveness firsthand. Xyrith emerged as a crucial advocate, his support carrying weight among traditional Alliance forces. The Supreme Commander shows us that innovation need not abandon everything we know, Xyrith argued. We expand our capabilities rather than replace them. Months of implementation followed. Human instructors worked alongside Alliance species, developing hybrid tactics that preserved each civilization's strengths while incorporating flexibility. The learning curve proved challenging. Species accustomed to precise coordination needed time to embrace controlled randomness. Meanwhile, the war continued with neither side achieving decisive advantage. Both Alliance and Vrex forces scored victories and suffered defeats, each adapting to counter the other's latest strategies. Strategic stalemate, Diana summarized during their daily briefing. Neither of us can predict the other reliably anymore. The status quo persisted until new intelligence arrived. Vrex communication intercepts suggested they were constructing multiple, smaller quantum gateways rather than a single megastructure. The distributed approach would be harder to counter using concentrated attacks. If they complete this network, Obi warned, they can fragment our defensive positions. We'd be fighting on dozens of fronts simultaneously. Alex convened his staff to address the emerging threat. The holographic display showed Vrex construction sites scattered across their space, each far smaller than the previous megastructure, but collectively just as dangerous. We can't implement Operation Trojan on this scale, Diana observed. Too many targets, too dispersed. The solution required rethinking chaos warfare itself. Rather than external unpredictability, Alex proposed systematic chaos, attacking their coordination network by making them doubt their own information processing. We create cognitive dissonance within the hive mind, he explained. Feed them slightly altered copies of their own tactical data. Introduce micro-delays in quantum entanglement communication and generate false tactical analyses that mimic their predictive patterns. Obi immediately grasped the concept. Information warfare at the quantum level. We don't fight them, we confuse them. The campaign that followed demonstrated humanity's evolving understanding of asymmetric warfare. Instead of direct military engagement, Alliance forces deployed sophisticated interference technologies. Psychological operations specialists, working with human neurological researchers, developed strategies to exploit the theoretical limitations of hive mind intelligence. Your contribution to Alliance doctrine is significant, Thesha acknowledged during one of their regular strategy meetings. You've taught us that warfare evolves beyond physical conflict. The war gradually shifted toward information dominance. Vrex forces, once perfectly coordinated, began showing signs of tactical fragmentation. Their responses to Alliance movements displayed increasing errors and delays. They're fighting ghosts, Diana reported with satisfaction. Their units receive conflicting data and can't determine which to trust. The turning point came when several Vrex scouting elements actually engaged each other, their targeting systems corrupted by Alliance cyber warfare. The hive mind, designed for perfect unity, paradoxically became vulnerable to its own coordination complexity. International monitoring stations across the galaxy detected the gradual withdrawal of Vrex forces from contested systems. They retreated not in defeat, but in confusion, unable to maintain offensive operations while their command structure struggled with information integrity. Have we won? Asked a junior officer during the morning briefing. Alex considered the question carefully. We've achieved strategic advantage. The Vrex will need time to restructure their protocols, adapt their quantum networks, develop countermeasures for our interference methods. And we'll continue evolving our tactics, Diana added. The cycle continues. The war hadn't ended with a dramatic final battle, but rather faded into an uneasy détente. Alliance forces maintained enhanced defensive positions while monitoring Vrex activity. Both sides had learned that perfect predictability loses to adaptive chaos, but chaos itself can be countered through evolution. 6 months after the last major engagement, Alex stood once again in the Alliance Council chamber. This time, however, he addressed them not as a desperate commander, but as someone who had fundamentally altered galactic military thinking. The Alliance faced extinction using traditional warfare, he summarized. We survive by remembering that war itself is chaos, and attempts to impose perfect order merely create new vulnerabilities. The Council's response reflected the changed galactic landscape. Species that once viewed humans as primitive now sought military training from human officers. The Menon Academy of Warfare implemented chaos theory and its applications, as a required course. Even the rigid Drumon had modified their shield protocols to incorporate unpredictable defensive patterns. Alex established a new Alliance military institute focusing on adaptive warfare. The facility welcomed officers from all member species, fostering cross-cultural military understanding that extended beyond mere combat tactics. "We're not just fighting wars differently," he explained to graduating officers. "We're building an alliance capable of responding to threats we haven't even imagined yet." Earth's role in the alliance transformed as well. What began as a desperate measure, turning to humanity as a last resort, evolved into recognition of unique cultural strengths. Human exploration ships, once viewed with suspicion, now operated freely throughout Alliance space. Administrator Cole, returning to Earth after an extended tour, reflected on humanity's galactic impact. "When we joined the Alliance 50 years ago, we were the primitive newcomers. Now, we're essential partners in galactic security." The Vrex Dominion remained a concern, but no longer an imminent threat. Their experiences fighting Alliance forces had fundamentally changed their strategic thinking. Intercepted communications suggested they were developing new approaches to warfare that might someday challenge even chaos-based tactics. The cycle continues, as Diana frequently reminded her staff. "We've won time, advantage, and respect. What we do with these gifts determines our ultimate survival." On a personal level, Alex found himself permanently changed by the experience. Leading beings from dozens of species through desperate warfare had expanded his understanding of responsibility, sacrifice, and creative thinking under pressure. "You don't just carry the weight of human expectations anymore," Zyrith observed during one of their planning sessions. His skin displayed the warm hues of friendship and respect earned through shared trials. "You bear the hopes of multiple civilizations." "I'm still the same person who first stepped into this chamber," Alex replied, though they both knew it wasn't entirely true. The Alliance military now functioned differently at fundamental levels. Traditional hierarchical command structures have been supplemented with network decision-making that could adapt quickly to changing situations. Species that once maintained strict separation now worked in integrated units, each contributing unique strengths to collective chaos. Operation reports reflected this transformation. Instead of rigid engagement protocols, tactical summaries read more like collective problem-solving exercises. Thraxian energy manipulation combined with human misdirection effectively countered Vrex coordination protocols in Sector 7G, became typical documentation. The Galactic Alliance had evolved from a defensive coalition into something resembling a true federation. Species maintained their independence, but now cooperated at levels previously unimaginable. The war with the Vrex, while not conclusively ended, had forged bonds that went beyond mere alliance. Looking toward the future, Alex considered the lessons learned and those yet to be discovered. The Vrex would return eventually, likely with novel approaches to warfare that accounted for chaos-based tactics. Other threats might emerge from unexplored regions of the galaxy. "We must remain adaptive," he emphasized during his final formal address as Supreme Commander. "The universe continually presents new challenges. Our response determines not just survival, but the shape of civilization itself." As ships moved through the stars and species continued their ancient dances of diplomacy and conflict, the human contribution remained. The understanding that perfect logic could be undone by creative chaos, that adaptation trumped efficiency, and that sometimes the best response to overwhelming force was to rewrite the rules entirely. The galaxy continued its eternal motion, but the beings within it had learned new ways to navigate their shared destiny. In council chambers and aboard ships of war, the phrase became common. The humans taught us that sometimes the most logical response is to embrace a little madness. And in the depths of Vrex space, processing nodes and coordination centers worked tirelessly to comprehend and counter this lesson. The war might have paused, but the eternal struggle between order and chaos continued among the stars, shaping the future of all species involved in its cosmic dance. Alex Reeves, now Supreme Commander of the Allied Forces in perpetuity, prepared for whatever challenges lay ahead. The quantum gateway might be destroyed, but space held infinite possibilities for conflict and cooperation. The Alliance stood ready, stronger for having learned that survival often required thinking beyond the boundaries of logic into realms of pure possibility. As the Celestial Accord moved through hyperspace on its next mission, Alex stood on the observation deck, watching stars blur past at impossible speeds. The weight of command felt familiar now, no longer crushing but rather focusing. He had learned to balance responsibility with creativity, structure with flexibility. The war with the Vrex had taught the Alliance more than military tactics. It had revealed fundamental truths about intelligence, consciousness, and the value of diversity in facing existential threats. Every species brought something unique to the cosmic table, and humanity's contribution, the acceptance and utility of controlled chaos, had proven as vital as any technological advancement. In his private quarters later, reviewing intelligence reports and fleet dispositions, Alex allowed himself a moment of reflection. The Alliance had trusted a newcomer species with its survival, had discovered that sometimes fresh perspectives provided solutions that millennia of experience could not. The Vrex would undoubtedly return, as would other threats. The galaxy never remained static for long, but the Alliance now possessed something it had lacked before: the understanding that perfect order could be the greatest weakness when facing an intelligent, adaptive enemy. As he drifted towards sleep, Alex's last thoughts touched on the future. The next generation of Alliance officers was already being trained in chaos theory, adaptive tactics, and cross-species integration. The defensive structures being built combined mathematical precision with elements of deliberate imperfection. The war might be won or lost in a single battle, but the evolution of thinking continued indefinitely. The Alliance had learned to embrace paradox, seeking order through controlled disorder, achieving strength through flexible thinking, and finding unity in celebrating difference. Stars continued their ancient dance across the galactic canvas, indifferent to the philosophies and conflicts of the beings who sought to comprehend them. But among those beings scattered across hundreds of worlds and dozens of species, a new understanding had taken root. The universe operated on principles both logical and chaotic. Intelligence could take countless forms, and sometimes the newest voice in the cosmic conversation could teach the oldest civilizations how to see their challenges anew. The Supreme Commander's quarters dimmed as Alex finally succumbed to exhaustion. Outside, the vast machine of the Alliance military continued its vigilant watch. Inside, dreams and plans merged into visions of futures yet unwritten, where chaos and order danced in eternal partnership throughout the stars. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, different threats, evolved strategies from determined enemies. But the Alliance would face them together, stronger for having learned that the greatest victory wasn't in perfect execution of rigid plans, but in the ability to adapt, improvise, and occasionally rewrite the rules of engagement entirely. The war with the Vrex Dominion had changed everything, not through technology or numbers, but through perspective. And in the endless expanse of space, perspective might just be the most powerful weapon of all. As the Celestial Accord glided through the cosmic darkness, its crew comprising dozens of species working in harmony, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath. The next chapter of this grand story was about to begin, and somewhere in the depths of Vrex space, new plans were already taking shape. The cycle continued. The dance persisted, and among the stars, countless beings prepared for whatever chaos or order tomorrow might bring to their doorstep. The Vrex Dominion's first counterattack revealed the evolution of their thinking. Instead of massive, coordinated strikes, they deployed autonomous hunter units programmed with simplified decision trees that couldn't be confused by information warfare. These units, lacking connection to the hive mind, operated on pure instinct and basic programming. Clever, Diana observed as intelligence reports filtered in. They've decentralized to counter our centralized chaos. Alex nodded, studying the new threat patterns. Predators don't need complex thinking to hunt. They need efficiency. The adaptation cycle continued. Alliance forces responded by developing counter-autonomous weapons that hunted the hunters. Engineers from multiple species collaborated on creating AI systems that could outmaneuver simple programming without falling into predictable patterns themselves. Months after Operation Trojan, a new threat emerged from an unexpected sector. The Shrill Collective, a species previously considered pacifist, had developed technology that could detect and predict chaos-based tactics. Their crystalline cognitive structures process probability differently than organic minds, making them immune to the confusion that affected the Vrex. Evolution happens on all fronts, Zyrith remarked during the emergency council session. His skin flickered through multiple colors, betraying the stress of confronting a new paradigm. While he focused on the Vrex, others observed and learned. Alex found himself facing a three-dimensional chess game where every move spawned countermoves across multiple species and philosophical approaches to warfare. The human tactics that had saved the Alliance now needed protection from being turned against them. "We've created a new arms race," he told his assembled staff. "Not of weapons, but of thinking itself." The solution came from an unlikely source. Dr. Serene Cole, a Zinthari philosopher-scientist, proposed what she called meta-adaptive warfare, tactics that could anticipate and counter anticipation itself. If chaos can be predicted, we must create systems that defy prediction even when prediction is expected, she explained, her energy field pulsing with mathematical certainty. The implementation required unprecedented cooperation between human intuition and alien logic. Species that had spent centuries perfecting precise mathematical models learned to incorporate variables that couldn't be quantified. Humans, conversely, learned to blend their instinctive chaos with structured unpredictability. We're not just changing tactics, Obi realized during one late-night session. We're evolving how we think about thinking. The next major engagement demonstrated this evolution. When the Shrill Collective tested their prediction systems against Alliance fleets, they encountered responses that acknowledged their predictive capability while still achieving surprise. Alliance ships followed patterns that seemed predictable until crucial moments when human commanders exercised what they called intuitive deviation. "They're adapting to our adaptation to their adaptation," Diana reported with a mix of awe and concern. "It's turtles all the way down." The philosophical implications rippled through council chambers. Species that had viewed warfare as a problem with optimal solutions confronted the reality that optimization itself could become a vulnerability. Young officers from traditional military academies began arguing that perfect strategy was an illusion. "The human contribution continues to reshape our understanding," Fesh acknowledged during a private meeting with Alex. "You've introduced concepts that challenge our fundamental assumptions about intelligence and conflict." Administrator Cole, returning for another inspection tour, found a transformed human contingent. The initial makeshift approach had evolved into sophisticated integration with Alliance systems. Human officers now commanded mixed-species crews with natural authority, while alien officers adapted human tactics to their own cultural contexts. "We've gone from being the last resort to being trendsetters," Cole mused. "How does that fit with Earth's caution?" "Earth perspective is changing too," Alex responded. "Distance provided objectivity. Now, they see our role differently, not as sacrificial pawns, but as crucial partners." The war had moved beyond traditional concepts of victory or defeat. The Vrex dominions still existed, still posed threats, but their expansion had halted. They focused on internal restructuring, developing new approaches to collective intelligence that might someday counter chaos tactics. Meanwhile, the Shrill Collective positioned themselves as mediators, their predictive abilities making them valuable in diplomatic negotiations. Strategic equilibrium, Diana termed it. No faction can dominate, but all must evolve to survive. The Alliance faced new challenges beyond military concerns. Economic integration among wildly different civilizations proved complex. The chaos principles that worked in warfare didn't necessarily translate to trade negotiations or resource management. Alex found himself increasingly involved in civilian concerns, applying adaptive thinking to problems far removed from combat. A military leader addressing agricultural distribution, Zyrith observed during one such meeting. The role of Supreme Commander has expanded beyond anything in our historical databases. Alex accepted these new responsibilities with characteristic human adaptability. Leadership means solving whatever problems threaten stability. Sometimes that's an invasion. Sometimes it's food shortages. The integration continued across multiple domains. Alliance scientists, working with human researchers, developed technologies that deliberately incorporated unpredictable elements. Quantum computers that generated truly random numbers for encryption. Biological interfaces that translated alien sensory data into human comprehensible forms. Propulsion systems that could navigate space-time anomalies by abandoning rigid trajectories. We're not just allies anymore, Obi reflected. We're collaborators in expanding the boundaries of possibility. The next generation emerged already changed. Young beings from all species grew up learning both rigid logic and creative chaos as complementary approaches rather than opposing philosophies. Alliance military academies taught courses in productive unpredictability alongside traditional strategy. Your children will inherit a different galaxy, Thesha told Alex during a ceremony commemorating 5 years since first contact with the Vrex. One where perfect order and complete chaos coexist as necessary extremes. The ceremony itself reflected this new reality. Traditional alliance protocols have been modified to incorporate human spontaneity. Formal decorations were awarded alongside impromptu celebrations. Military precision framed moments of deliberate informality. Alex stood among representatives from dozens of species, each having contributed to the evolving nature of their collective survival. The human delegation included not just military personnel, but artists, philosophers, and children, symbolizing Earth's full integration into galactic society. When we called you a last resort, Ambassador Krell addressed the assembled crowd, his massive Drumon frame surprisingly graceful. We betrayed our limited understanding. You weren't our last resort. You were our next step. The speech continued with representatives from each species acknowledging humanity's influence on their thinking. Even the Zinthari, whose energy-based existence seemed furthest from human biology, spoke of lessons learned about the value of imperfection. Chaos isn't the opposite of order, their ambassador declared. It's order's creative partner. In the months that followed, the Alliance expanded its boundaries. Exploration vessels, now crewed by mixed species, including humans, ventured into regions previously considered too dangerous. The ability to adapt to unexpected situations made them better equipped for genuine unknowns. The Vrex Dominion, while no longer actively expansionist, maintained contact. Their evolution had taken a different path. Where the Alliance learned to embrace chaos, the Vrex developed flexible unity, maintaining hive mind coordination while allowing individual units more autonomous decision-making. Neither approach is superior. Victor Zheng, Alex's eventual successor, would later write in his treatise on evolved warfare. Both represent valid responses to the fundamental challenge of intelligence: how to remain coherent while adapting to change. The story of how aliens called humans a last resort and watched them rewrite the rules of war became a cornerstone of Alliance history. Children learned about it in schools, military academies analyzed it in strategy courses, and diplomats referenced it in treaties. But beyond the historical significance lay practical applications. Every new threat the Alliance faced was met with this combined approach, neither purely logical nor purely chaotic, but adaptively appropriate to the situation. Years later, when contemplating retirement, Alex Reeves would stand once again on the observation deck of the Celestial Accord. The view had become familiar, yet it never failed to inspire. Stars wheeled in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the philosophical revolutions occurring among the beings who had learned to dance between them. Did we change the galaxy? Diana, still his most trusted advisor, asked as they shared this quiet moment. We gave it new perspectives, Alex replied. The galaxy's too vast for anyone to change entirely. But perspective shapes everything else. The war with the Vrex had ended not with surrender or dominance, but with transformation. The alliance emerged stronger not because of military might alone, but because of evolved thinking. The Vrex adapted not by abandoning their nature, but by expanding it. And humanity? They discovered that being called a last resort could become the beginning of a new definition of essential. The Supreme Commander finally stepped down, passing leadership to a Keldan officer who had trained under human methods. Alex returned to Earth as something unprecedented, a genuine hero whose victory lay not in destruction, but in changing how an entire galactic civilization thought about problem-solving. Your legacy isn't military, Obi told him during the farewell ceremony. It's intellectual. You gave us permission to think differently. As Alex's shuttle departed the Celestial Accord for the final time, he reflected on the journey. Humanity had entered galactic society as newcomers, viewed with mixture of curiosity and condescension. They departed as respected partners whose seemingly chaotic nature had provided solutions to challenges that perfect logic couldn't solve. The shuttle approached Earth, and Alex saw his home world with new eyes. The blue marble hanging in space represented not just humanity's origin, but their transformation point. Here began the idea that chaos could be constructive, that unpredictability could be strategic. Below, parades waited to welcome the hero home. Children waved flags representing both Earth and the Alliance. The media prepared stories about humanity's first Supreme Commander. But Alex knew the real story was quieter, more profound. They had been called a last resort and proven that sometimes the last resort becomes the first evolution. In trying to save themselves, they had helped reshape how intelligence itself approached the eternal challenge of survival and growth. The war with the Vrex Dominion would appear in history as a turning point where the galaxy learned that perfection could be a trap and that beauty existed in controlled chaos. Treaties would memorialize the conflict. Museums would display artifacts from significant battles. But the true inheritance lay in thinking itself. Species across the galaxy now approach problems with broader perspectives. Military academies taught lessons about the value of unpredictability. Scientific research incorporated elements of deliberate randomness. As the shuttle touched down on Earth, Alex permitted himself one final thought about the journey that had led him here. The aliens had called humans a last resort, expecting desperation to yield useful chaos. Instead, they discovered that human chaos was actually a different form of intelligence, one that could coexist with, complement, and occasionally transcend purely logical approaches. The war had been won. The thinking had evolved. And somewhere in the vast expanse of space, new challenges were already emerging that would require this hard-earned wisdom to survive. But that was for the next generation to face. Alex Reeves had done his part, rewriting rules of war, not through force alone, but through the audacity to think differently when conventional wisdom faltered. As he stepped from the shuttle into Earth's gravity, Alex smiled. The last resort had become the first choice. And in that transformation lay the promise that intelligence, in all its forms, would continue to surprise the universe itself. The story ended not with a conclusion, but with a beginning. For in teaching the galaxy new ways to think about war, peace, and survival, humanity had ensured that the future would be shaped by creativity rather than limited by convention. And that, perhaps, was the most human contribution of all.